Okay, welcome to the Pleasure Path. This is a sacred teaching circle, and today is all about bringing us back into alignment with pleasure and opening our body and our spirit to receive. So just let me know that you can see my screen okay, and we'll get going. So just to open this circle, firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the lands in which we're all individually standing. I am here on Yagara land, and this is land that was never ceded. I acknowledge the privilege that I've gained through the colonization of these lands, and I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. So tonight, I just invite us to take a moment to step into this as a sacred space with reverence, be that with just taking a big deep breath and sending your roots down deep and just taking a moment to acknowledge that you're here and that you've made the time to show up for yourself today. And I want to honor you for that. You can take this moment to call in your guides, your ancestors, and acknowledge the maidens, the mothers, the megas, and the crones of past and present who have circled before us. Okay. Let's take a deep breath and land. So to get started, my name is Dania Foster. I am a clinical naturopath. I am an energetics therapist who has been working with energy through mums and children for many years, working with Reiki healing, meditation circles, women's circles, and tarot while I was studying naturopathy and getting my degree, and then working as a naturopathic healer as well. I am a mum of three. I've got a very loving and supportive husband. I have always been very intrigued about sex. And yes, I did cop a lot of shaming from that as a teen. So there is a lot of that pent up energy around sexuality and pleasure and what it means to be really embodied in that. And through my journey with coming back into reclamation of self, I have had to face a lot of those shadows, face a lot of those thoughts or the stories that I had conjured within myself. So finding safety in my partnership helped me to explore myself deeper because I had that safe platform that I could lean into. Meeting motherhood really tested me because I did face that, who do I get to be now? Who do I have to be? And having to put all the different masks on and hats on and do all of the things did burn me out. And then through healing all of that, I found my liberation again, and sort of like a second wind came back. So in my burnout, my libido crashed out and I felt that guilt. I felt rage. I felt the shame come back all over again. You know, like when we're healing and we think that we've healed something and we come back around and we're like, oh, here it is again. I thought I dealt with you. But we move through these cycles in our life. In my healing, I found relationship with my body, connection with my desires, and a better than ever sex life with my partner. So that's what I want for you as well. So why me? As I was saying before, got personal experience, and so I'd like to come back and help you with what I have learnt from my own struggles. I'm a clinical naturopath. I know the physiology of the body and what we need to make it work, but I'm also that energetics therapist with that deep background in supporting women, how we can integrate the shadow, how the emotional and the energetic impact to the physical is also really important to me. And what I have discovered is that as an energy healer, we couldn't get to the crux of the problem by just working with energy and mindset. And as a naturopath, we can't get to the root of the problem by just working with the physiology of the body. We need to combine it all together holistically, energy and physical body. So we do all of that, peeling back all the energetic and emotional layers in a trauma-informed practice, in a trauma-informed way. So tonight, what we are going to cover is what libido is, what it isn't, and what it needs to be to thrive. We're going to talk about pleasure hormones and why survival will always win. We're going to talk about the vaginal microbiome and its role in your sex drive. We will discuss the witch wound and the shame stories behind claiming our desires and what we can do amongst the chaos of motherhood to call it back. At the end, I will be able to walk you through the steps of taking this deeper on your healing path with my sacred offering. So tell me, like, this is a part where if you'd like to share, feel free to type in the chat. Tell me why you don't feel as turned on, as confident, as connected as you want to be. So this could be things like body changes, shame cycles, cycle issues, fatigue, pain, feeling disconnected from partners. All of this type of thing can be going on. So yeah, take a moment. I'll see if there's anybody who wants to share anything. You don't have to, of course, but feel free if you want to unmic or just drop in the chat if you want to stay anonymous. So I'll take this moment. I'll share first while I'm waiting. But so for me, like, I'm really tired today. I've been at book club and running facilitating a homeschool group for that. And then I came home, had some consults, had to go up and make dinner, get everybody showered and sorted, and come down here and run my circle. So it's really normal to feel really tired and run down. But what's not normal is feeling disconnected from your body, feeling pain in your body, feeling like you don't want anybody to, touch your skin, all of that type of thing. The changes in your body, disconnect, all of those sort of things aren't normal. So even though I feel really tired, I still feel really at home in my body. And what I feel with my relationship to pleasure or libido or sex drive or whatever you want to call it these days is that when I get to the end of the day, I can retreat into my pleasure rather than hide from it because I want to disconnect. And so that's where I'm at now. Whereas even though I'm really tired at the end of the day, I'm not trying to avoid intimacy. I'm leaning into that as a safe way to release and feel safe and feel pleasure is fueling for me. So that's just where I'm at. Let's check in with the chat. So we have disconnect in my own body and how my body looks. Yeah, that was a huge thing. And I completely honor that. Life is just so busy. It's like choosing between pleasure or rest. And yeah, absolutely understand where you're coming from with that as well. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to these feelings. I know when I was talking about running this webinar, a lot of people were thinking that I'm just too tired for that, or my body shut down to that. And I'm actually grateful that it has because I didn't want to have to be worried about anymore. There's a lot of things that the women have been saying to me. And so if you're along those sort of lines, like, you're not wrong, you're not a bad mom or a woman or a wife or a partner or anything for feeling those things. We just need to listen to that and come back into connection with ourselves because there is a lot more pleasure that we can be had. So what libido isn't, and what it needs to feel like for you to thrive. So if you once in your life wanted sex, you felt desire, you felt that urge, you felt that need, and you wanted to connect with your partner, but now it's like, ugh, please don't touch me. And you're like, why is that gone? Or maybe you're just realizing that, oh, it actually isn't as good as it used to be, and it would be kind of nice if it would come back. Then that's what we're going to be talking about today. I also meet some people who have never had a sex drive. And I completely honor that. They may be asexual people, and that's a completely valid response. And this is why our libido, our sex drive, is so individualized. And we really need to honor where we are at and what we want, because this doesn't need to be performative. It doesn't need to be for somebody else's fulfillment. This is all about connection with your own vitality, your own inner spark, your own pleasure and desire and ability to receive. So that's what we're looking to do for this. So if you are dealing with sexual dysfunction, be that pain, low arousal, not orgasming, I can see that, and we can touch on that. And that's something that I do support women with in my work. So libido just means your desire or your lust. It's cyclical. You don't have to be turned on every day, all day. It comes and it goes, and that's all right. It's not about hitting a normal. There is no normal. There is no marker that you need to achieve. It's about what it feels like for you, what it feels good for you. And it's about reclaiming how you want to feel. So if you're noticing that things have changed and you've suddenly, or not so suddenly, might have crept up on you, have no interest in sex, you're not really getting many fantasies or arousal about things, or you've got some pain or dryness, or you're all of a sudden not able to reach climax, those types of things, like, you're not broken. Your body is working to protect you because you're not in a space to give back to that level. And at this point, we can come back from this if you're wanting to. So why aren't you thriving yet? So let's look into the root causes. Depletion and our undernourishment as women, as mothers, is the first thing that we need to look into. So depletions, I'm looking at nutrient deficiencies, postnatal depletions. So this is what our body has run low on or run out of in some instances after having babies. What we have given over in the process of breastfeeding, co-sleeping, which often means not enough quality sleep, continuous pregnancies or losses, that's counting as well. Because if you're having baby after baby and your body is not taking time to replenish those stores, then you're in the space of overgiving physically to a point of depletion. There's also the emotional overgiving and the mental load depleting you as well. That all needs to be taken into consideration. The undernourishment comes in from the mums who live off scraps all day. Maybe we'll have a chocolate bar at 3 o'clock or an instant coffee, get through to dinner, make a dinner for everybody. Might be something carb heavy, blood sugar chaos. We've got skipping meals, snacking on chocolate, caffeine reliance. All of those things are leading to the undernourishment. I'm just describing where I was like 10 years ago. Missing these key nutrients that are needed to make the hormones that you need, make the neurotransmitters that you need to be able to have a functioning, optimized system. So we need to have food rituals that feed the mother. We need to bring ourselves back into the equation of being taken care of. And I was just talking to a client this week about this, saying that when we show our children, like if we're running around all day, making sure our kids are fed and get them on their plate, but then we want to eat different to what our kids are eating, like showing them that we don't just eat, dino nuggets and sauce, is that if you make yourself a beautiful, nourishing meal, they're watching you do that. And so as they're getting older, they start to think, well, that's how I grow up. That's what I do when I'm getting bigger, as I start to eat like this. And I'm noticing that in my own girls. And that's a really nice thing to see, that they're like making conscious choices to make themselves a salad with some grilled chicken or some salmon or something like that for their lunch. So because they're watching how they need to be nourished by leading example of what we're doing as mothers. If your body doesn't feel fed, it's not going to feel safe or sexy. You're going to be running on fumes and empty. And that leads to a whole array of problems that come into mood and energy and everything like that. The physiology of sex starts in your nervous system. So yes, we have depletions, but this is also going to lead into that nervous system stuck in fight or flight because you're not feeling safe. If you're not fed, you don't feel safe. You're always on alert. Fight, flight, freeze, sexual energy won't rise. So these are some signs that you're living in survival mode. So check these off, and you might want to, maybe you can raise a hand or something like that and let me know, or give me some emojis in the chat. Signs that you're living in survival mode: constant fatigue or burnout, feeling irritable, anxiety, or rage, low stress tolerance, having trouble sleeping, or waking up not feeling like you've rested at all. Tension or dissociating during intimacy, not being able to get into the mood, might be the mind won't shut off. Always feeling on, or people pleasing. That's the fawn response of the nervous system. Feeling numb or complete aversion to touch. You know, when you want that radius around you at the end of the day where nobody is allowed to come near you because you are completely touched out and overstimulated. Your body will always prioritize survival over sex. It needs the same building blocks to build stress hormones as it does to build sex hormones, and it's going to build the cortisol over building things like progesterone that your body needs, but building estrogen that your body needs. So yeah, when you're in chronic stress or survival mode, your hypothalamus, which is the regulator of your hormones in your brain, it's going to prioritize that cortisol production over your sex hormone production. And that's called the pregnenolone steal. And that's because the pathway is going to be like the pregnenolone is needed for both. And it's like, well, the body has to make a choice. Am I going to use this pregnenolone like vital stores of energy? That's your cholesterol-based precursor. So yes, the body needs cholesterol. It's going to use it for either stress hormones or sex hormones. So a lot of the time, it's just going to go stress. We need more stress hormones. We need to keep up with this lifestyle. We need to keep up with all these demands. So forget about all of that. We're just going to go with the stress hormones now. So it stops prioritizing the optimizing of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and it keeps using them to make those cortisols. So we start to see some symptoms. So these are the hormonal symptoms where things start to, you can see how this is coming downstream here to the hormones. So low testosterone means low libido. Low estrogen, we get vaginal dryness, low arousal. So the vaginal wall might get really thin as well, which means it might get easily irritated, might get easy to bleed. So bleeding after sex and everything like that is a symptom of that as well. Lower progesterone. So progesterone only happens when we ovulate. So if we're not ovulating because we're not making enough of the hormones that say it's safe to ovulate and safe to be fertile, then we don't get any progesterone. And progesterone is the hormone that makes us feel calm and safe. So without that, we feel anxiety, we get poor sleep, we get irritability. Further down the pathways, we've got oxytocin and dopamine. They're all of our feel-good hormones, feeling connected, feeling motivated, feeling pleasure. I think that dopamine is the pleasure hormone. It gives you pleasure for doing little tasks. It's not just through sex, but it's through things like ticking things off your to-do list. Dopamine hits. Scrolling social media gives you dopamine. Fake dopamine, but we get there. So that's all the little pleasure kicks that you're getting throughout the day. And if that's disrupted, then it's really hard to feel connected to anything. So you start to feel like, oh, I just feel so numb in my everyday. I just feel so disconnected from everything. And this is where they are like, I don't even know who I am anymore. That's where this starts to come in. How are you going to get turned on by anything if you can't even feel connected to anything like that? So yeah, you literally cannot access pleasure when your body thinks you're in danger. It's just going to shut down all of that, and sex is just not going to be a priority biochemically. So this is the downstream impact that blocks your pleasure. So low progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone leads to, there we go, your mood swings, anxiety, irritability. We get hormonal migraines from estrogen fluctuations. We get heavy bleeding, mid-cycle spotting. I have women that tell me that their sex drive is struggling because they're spotting like majority of the month. They've got bleeds continuously. Really hard to get intimate when that's what's happening. Fatigue, brain fog, insomnia, broken sleep, more fatigue. weight fluctuations, just feeling uncomfortable in your weight is a big thing that's going to turn you off from people seeing you naked or getting comfortable with your body moving in those sort of positions. We've got low self-worth and disconnection from your body. It comes into this reason. So yeah, it's really hard to feel sexy if you're bleeding half the month, snapping at your partner and creating fights over things, feeling numb or anxious or just trying to survive. So how do I support low libido in clinic? We're going to come back to replenishing you first. That can be food as medicine, checking your pathology, or other functional testing, things like HTMA, which is hair tissue mineral analysis. These types of things to see what minerals are missing. And these are the key ones: your magnesium, your iron, your zinc, your B vitamins, and your essential fatty acids like omega-3. Those are the things that our body burns through really quickly when it's under stress, because these are all the things that your body uses to make the stress hormones as well. So if that's underpowered, we need to refill those. If we can do it with food, great. But a lot of the time, if we are that undernourished, we may need to patch that with some supplements that are specific for what you're needing. Healing the gut-brain connection is really important because it helps to reduce that systemic inflammation. It supports your mood and your hormone clearance, because guess what? We poop out estrogen. So if we've got dysregulated hormones, we've got too much estrogen compared to progesterone, those sort of things, we need to clear that estrogen load, and we do that through our gut, through our elimination systems. So if that's not working, if we're a bit constipated, if our liver's a bit backed up, then our estrogen clearance is going to be harder. And that's where we get those symptoms like the heavier bleeds, the spotting, and things like that coming through. So making sure that's all working. Supporting the HPA axis is what we were talking about, the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal system. That's what that stands for. So this is how the brain communicates to that stress system and says, we're in fight, we're in flight, we're in freeze, like panic systems on. So if you're always in that fight or flight system, we need to help your body to feel safe again. We need to teach your body how to feel safe. So we've got a few different things that we do in clinic. We've got little rituals that we add into the day. And these are things that I personally used when I've got 3 kids. I was studying full time, working, all of these different things. These are little rituals that we build into our everyday, for breath work, for tapping, for herbal adaptogens, rituals for the end of day rest, like candlelight showers. These different things just send safety back into the body. Thymus tapping just helps to drop you down into safety somatically in your body. Just doing these things help you bring you back into rest and digest and feeling safe. Another way that our body is going to feel safe is making sure that not only is our gut optimized and can actually absorb the minerals that we do eat, but that it's feeling that we've got the right blood sugar balance. Because if our body is up and down with energy crashes like this, then we're going to be on high alert from that as well. So blood sugar balance is making sure that we're hitting our protein goals, hitting our fiber goals, so that we're not just going harder on the carb load, and that means we're crashing out our blood sugar. So always balancing our foods the way we eat it. So teaching that food as medicine to stabilize our energy and therefore stabilize our hormones. Because remember, our hormones are downstream. They come after all of this. They're cued on from everything else. So your nervous system, your depletions, all of those different things are going to direct your hormones in what to do. The hormones are the actors, and the nervous system are the directors of the play. So whatever's going to happen is up to your nervous system. Okay, your circadian rhythm, your sleep-wake cycles, making sure you're getting quality sleep, because sleep is so healing. It's not just a thing we say, it actually is. So we need to make sure that we've got the right wind down practices and rituals. We've got to make sure that we're waking up and allowing our brain to wake up as well by activating it with light at the right timing, and restoring all these pleasure pathways. So this is bringing it together with the little rituals that help you to listen to your body, drop into safety, connect in with energetic work that helps you to listen and give your body what it needs. So yes, and within that, I do like the functional testing, like the HTMA. There's a tear test. Tells us what minerals are being stored and utilized and in what ratios is important. Dutch test, which is a dried urine test for complete hormones, tests all of our cortisol, like our stress hormones, as well as all of the female hormones and all of their metabolites as well. So it's a really handy in-depth test to know what's going on exactly. Cobiome analysis is your microbiome gut analysis, where we take a stool sample and get all of the functional markers for inflammation and mucosal integrity, which is like, do you have leaky gut? How is your body inflamed? Are you having reactivity? Those different things. And your pathology, like bloods. But I need to tell you something. You can't heal a body that you secretly resent. So this is a huge thing, is that we can't just tell you to go and do these things and just be like, oh, that you'll be right. There is a lot more of the emotional support that is required to get through this, because we didn't get here by accident. We got to this point through living a life of stories and beliefs about ourselves and our worthiness and what we deserve or believe or anything like that. We need to rewrite that. And we need to find a connection back to appreciating, feeling compassion, forgiveness for self. All of these things are layered in. So we have to hold space for all of that, and I do that in my work. So often we see the symptoms like our bleed or things that are going wrong, anything like that's causing you discomfort. We see them as betrayals, like my body hates me. That's something that I hear a lot. My body just hates me. It's always breaking. It's always doing this. Something's always going wrong. We've got to listen to these as like red flags. They're symptoms of the body crying out for help and saying, I need some support here. If we can learn our cycles, if we can know when we're ovulating, what our cervical mucus is telling us, what our bleed is telling us, we can find where our libido can surge and where we need to allow it to rest. Because like I said, it's cyclic and it will go up and down. It doesn't have to stay high all the time, but we can take advantage of those highs and we can take advantage of those lows. So this is all sacred intel from the body. So pleasure and vitality begin with knowing what our body is trying to say to us. So let's have a look at some cycle awareness. So these are some little images of our cycle. Let's have a look at the bottom one over here. So the menstrual cycle, this is a typical cycle. This is not what everybody is. Not everybody is going to have a 28-day cycle. We all have our own space of normal. So a healthy cycle ranges somewhere between 26 to 36 days. If you have a cycle that is usually between those sort of days, and you can see that it's biphasic in that we've got 2 stages, then we have a healthy vitalistic cycle. So what does a vital cycle look like? It looks like it goes in 2 phases. It looks like it's between 26 to 36 days. Between the first day of your bleed is day 1 to the day before your bleed is the last day of that. So what happens is, this is over here is day 1. We start to shed that lining. And what's happening over here is that our hormones are pretty all baselining, which is fine. This is pretty much what a man looks like, you know. This is So what we're doing when we're bleeding is like we're feeling like a man, really. What happens here is that as we're moving out of our bleed and further into the follicular phase, we get a bit more energy. We get a bit more energy because our estrogen is typically rising. This is what a vital cycle looks like. As estrogen rises with the follicular stimulating and luteinizing hormone peaking here, that's ovulation. So what happens is the ovum releases the egg, and sometimes there is ovulation pain, not always. Usually, if there is heightened ovulation pain, that's because we have higher prostaglandins in our system, which means your body's probably in a higher inflammatory state. So that's all a cue. Are you receiving ovulation pain or not? So when are you supposed to ovulate? And it sometimes is smack bang on the day 14 of here, but sometimes we have a shorter luteal phase. And so you might ovulate around here. Everybody's different. And this is why I love tracking cycles with my women that I work with, is because we need to learn your body and we need to learn what's your normal. Okay. So we can sort of tell what's happening with our cycle and what our hormones are doing here. We don't have to go for blood tests every day to work this out. We can track our temperature. And that's what's happening over here. So tracking our temperature every day gives us a really good indication. So our temperature goes down, up, sort of hovers around. Sometimes if you get sick, it can, you can see that come up here. But what will happen is just before ovulation is that your temperature starts to drop. So what you notice is you're going along in your follicular phase when you're tracking your temperature, and then you might see, oh, there's a bit of a drop happening here. I'm about to get really fertile. So this is what happens in a vital cycle, which means you're fertile, you're healthy, so your body's going to drop temperature, and that's like a warning sign if you're tracking your temperature to say, okay, I'm about to get fertile. So whether you're trying to conceive or not, that's an idea that if you're not trying to conceive, then be safe. And if you are, then get busy. Because here we're going to start to see an increase in cervical mucus that's going to look a bit like egg white. You might have seen it like a bit like creamy moving up to here. And then here we get like that egg white consistency. And that's your fertile mucus that sperm can survive in for up to 5 days. So if you are ovulating here, that's when the egg's released. So about 5 days before that, you would be any sperm that's entered from this point could survive until it meets the egg here. So that's what we need to know, is when you're fertile, are you actually ovulating? Because your bleed is not the main event of your cycle. A lot of people get hung up on their bleed. The bleed is just indication or intel on what's going to happen here. We need to know that this is going to happen, your ovulation, this, so that this will happen, because once this happens, we get this progesterone rise, and that is what helps our whole body to feel safe. This is what makes our whole bleed a lot easier to manage. And if we're not getting this happening, then we're not being fertile. We're not going to have much of a libido, because the estrogen is what makes us feel all juicy, and it's going to help us feel aroused. So this is the peak time for your libido here. So we can tell when that's coming. And we can be like, if you are not feeling super aroused or turned on by life in general around mid-cycle, then I'm thinking we have a bit of an issue, imbalance around your estrogen. It's not peaking as high as it needs to create some momentum for this to happen. And then if you're feeling irritable and moody, I'm thinking, yeah, we don't have enough of that progesterone to carry you through. And then we get bleed problems, we get spotting, we get heaviness, things start to go wrong from there. So this is all really important insight. So when are we meant to ovulate? Ovulation happens when we feel safe. It's usually mid-cycle. We have a biphasic cycle. So when you're tracking temperature, you see half of it's on the lower end of the temperature. Then ovulation happens and we get this peak, and this is on the luteal phase. So we can tell you're in a luteal phase and ovulation has occurred by that temperature rise. And then you're in the high phase of your temperature, and then it will drop again to come back into a bleed. So you can see what's coming by tracking your temperature. Okay. Do we have any questions about this one that you would like to ask before I move into the next section? We'll talk about this all day, so we keep going. Okay, so the vaginal microbiome is a huge impact on our libido, because guess what? If you are feeling a bit ashamed about things down there, like your mucus, your smell, things like itchiness, or things like not getting any natural lubrication and feeling a bit dry, pain, all of those different things can be really, really hard to feel turned on when you are trying to hide hide yourself. Okay, so our vaginas are really, really, I think that they're amazing. They're so self-cleaning, deeply intuitive portal. Your vagina is a mirror of your internal health. It can tell us a lot about what's going on for you as well. So what is it supposed to be? Like, what's a normal, healthy vagina? So it's going to smell like a mild, musky, tangy scent. Bit like yogurt or iron. Same goes for taste. And that's okay. Like, if you've been a bit sweaty or you haven't showered that since this morning and it's an evening, like, it's going to be a bit more tangy, and that's normal. That's not anything to be ashamed about. That is a normal, healthy vaginal scent. Mucus, clear to white discharge. It's going to change throughout the cycle. So obviously after your bleed, bleed can change the microbiome, which we'll talk about in a minute. But so noticing changes of cervical mucus straight after your bleed is a really good indication. So I do ask a lot of questions about that. But so after the bleed, what does the mucus turn to? It should be sort of like a white, creamy discharge. It shouldn't be like cottage cheese or chunky or anything like that. That's more leaning to like a thrush sort of situation, which is really common to happen straight after bleeds because of the change in pH. But yeah, just sort of like a creamy substance. And then it moves to clear egg white through your fertile days, which is about 5 days in the middle of your cycle. And then the day after ovulation, your mucus goes dry, because guess what? Your estrogen has dropped. That is a key indicator that you are no longer fertile. Can't rely on that, but that's a key indicator. And then we can sort of count, if you know how long your individual luteal phase is, because we've been tracking and knowing what your body's doing, then you can know that this is when I'm going to be expecting my period. That's really helpful for us girls who have a bit of a cycle that changes and it's not very predictable. That was me for a lot of years, never knowing when it was coming, because sometimes it was 60 days, sometimes it was 40 days, sometimes it was 28, 30 days. Whoa, what happened there? But having a really irregular cycle is something that why I did a lot of work into this, because I needed to understand what my body was doing and build it back into a goal. Had a goal, keeping the cycle under 36 days. And now we've got a regular pattern of having it, 30 to 32 days goals. Great. It's possible to get it back. So knowing when things are happening, having natural lubrication that increases with arousal and ovulation, it's really not normal and healthy for it to come and go. That's what we're saying there. And of course, a normal, healthy vagina is going to have no itching, no pain, and the odor is not going to be foul. It's going to be just musky, which is fine. So if you have these things that need attention, fishy, sour, foul odors, may indicate bacterial vaginosis, BV, which is bacterial imbalance, or trichomoniasis. Looking out for thick, chunky, yellowy green, gray, or frothy discharge can all be indicators of things going wrong that can be supported. Itching, burning, pain with sex, urination, those different things here are signs that we need to pay some attention. Persistent dryness, not getting the fluctuations of natural lubrication coming at ovulation. If you're tearing or feeling irritated. Recurrent UTIs, thrush or BV. All things that we need to pay attention to. So you can't feel sexy if your yoni is holding shame. Like I was saying, like this is a beautiful sacred portal, right? This is an area of your body that is like has copped a lot of shame over the years. People feel like embarrassed talking about it. It's something that you don't really want to bring up with practitioners. Those different things, like I get it that can be embarrassing or hard to talk about. I am an open book and you can ask me anything. You are not going to frighten me about any of your questions or any of your presentations. Like that's okay. So I wanted to create that safe space where you can talk to me about these things, because what might be happening if you've got those symptoms that we see before is we've got like low lactobacillus. So lactobacillus is the strain of bacteria that needs to dominate in the vaginal microbiome because it keeps everything under control. It's your key pH regulator. So we need to have our pH to keep it self-cleaning. That needs to be regulated. If not, we can have like overgrowth of the Gardnerella types of bacterias, Candida, which is things like your thrush, E. coli, strep, staph species. All of these things can take advantage of an environment that's not optimized. So that's where you get those. This is the connection between your vaginal microbiome and your gut microbiome. So your gut microbiome, if you've got dysbiosis in your gut or imbalance in your gut bacteria, that can feed into affecting your vaginal flora as well. So this is why we need to work on a holistic basis. Just working in one area isn't going to talk about like why this is all happening. So our hormonal shifts, like I was talking before, if we have low estrogen, that's going to disrupt your vaginal immunity because of the mucosa not being able to keep up, and that's protective. Different hormonal shifts are going to impact that. So yeah, what impacts your vaginal health? Gut health and inflammation, taking antibiotics, hormonal birth control impacts this as well. High sugar or carb diets, using scented soaps or douches, these like washes that they sell. That's all based on like shame tactics for women. I hate that. You don't need to do that. Your vagina is self-cleaning. Synthetic underwear, all of these things trap in the bacteria that it's not helpful. Also, things that can impact your vaginal health is semen, sex toys, having multiple partners, those different things. Like, no shame in any of that, but it does impact your vaginal health. And so things like barrier methods and things like that aren't just to save you from things like sexually transmitted diseases, but they also help to keep your microbiome safe. So it's something that I've thought is like, whenever you're looking towards your partner, you're like, oh, do I really want to like put my microbiome at risk for this one? Don't know. Chronic stress can also lower your vaginal immunity as well. So obviously that's going to play its role. So the Happy Vagina Playbook, I was quite proud of myself making this slide here. I love this name. What can we do? So vaginal suppositories. So boric acid is something that I've been using and really liking. Really good to use things like a boric acid suppository, which means it's a little capsule that you insert up into your vagina. Really good to use that after your period. And that can just help to reset your pH. Also really good to use after sex to just help to clear out any of your partner's problems and like resetting it for yourself. We can also use things like herbal blends, herbal suppositories that we make up, probiotics as well as suppositories that help the pH and also help to influence that lactobacillus dominance happening there for some more flora balance and help to push out some of those bad guys and make room for the good ones. So all of that we can work with. So we want to really rebuild with targeted probiotics. We've got specific strains of probiotics that need to be in there. So looking at things like, here we go, test, don't guess, vaginal microbiomes, to see what's the terrain look like, what sort of species do we have, in what ratios, just to have a look at that landscape and see where do we need to rebuild some populations and where do we need to push some populations out with maybe herbs or boric acid or things like that. So holistic hygiene, like I was saying, no soaps inside, breathable cotton underwear. Also post-sex urination is really cool to just clear that pathway and help to reset for you. Back to that test, don't guess. I talked about the vaginal microbiome, but we can also do things like pH swabs. And these are all these tests are really easy. You do them at home. You don't have to go to a practitioner to get this done. You do them at yourself. And this is like pH swabs is testing your pH throughout the month can be a really interesting practice to see what happens if you're continually getting things like BV or thrush or things like that, to see what's happening and like why. I just like to know all of the ins and outs of what your body's doing and see the landscape and understand what's happening a bit deeper. And so, yes, of course, we can support the hormones if they are depleted, especially like through perimenopause or postpartum, testing their hormones to see what they're doing and then helping them to build those bridges back up using herbs or nutrients to get them back into that space that they need to be. So here's some juicy goodness. So recommended lubricants and barrier methods. A lot of the stuff that they sell, like just at the shops, like the mainstream supermarket stuff, is not helpful for our microbiomes. So lubricants, you need to make sure that you're using a water or an aloe-based lubricant that's pH balanced, glycerin free, because glycerin's going to throw off your microbiome health and your pH. So will any flavors, the warming, the spermicidal, all of those different things are not good. So brands that I love and use would recommend would be the Yes Organics, the Olive and Bee, the Frenchie, the Libido brand, and the Bed Intentions. They're all microbiome safe and pH friendly. Feel free to take a screenshot of these little brands if you want. Condom recommendations is for like if you're needing barrier methods to either prevent at that time when you are fertile, also to help protect your microbiome if you're in a space of healing through that or anything like that. But if you're needing them, then avoid the ones that are spermicidal coated or the fragrance latex. So you don't want any of the Durax or anything like that. They're not great for the vaginal health, but you want the non-latex or natural rubber. So recommended brands would be the skin ones, and I'm pretty sure you can get those ones at like your Coles and things like that. Glide are a really good brand as well, and then your Frenchie and your Johnny are environmentally safe as well, as in that they break down, they're biodegradable. So they're my recommendations. These are some nourishing lubricants from nature. So these are some things that I'm loving, and I'll talk to you about coconut oil because that's a really popular one as well, which can be good, but it's not for all circumstances. So let's talk about that. So I'm loving fennel oil. I use a fennel oil from V for Me. I have the me get my product. I have a few things down here on my shelf. This is the fennel oil. This is a concentrate version. So this one here is what I use to make up the fennel oil to hand out to clients. So it's fennel oil 5%. And what this does is that it supports the pH balance. You can use it as a massage oil for vaginal massage. You can use it to just be pleasure enhancing, because what it does is it sends all of the blood into that area. So it's really good for that. It's also antifungal and antibacterial. So I like to use it post sex, those different things, to just help my body to come back into a nice grounded space. So this is diluted in olive oil, this one. That's the fennel. Coconut oil. Coconut oil is a really popular natural lubricant that a lot of people use. And yes, it's antimicrobial, really good for external use and solid play. But if you're using it with condoms, like, it will break down condoms. So don't recommend it for safe sex reasons. And I don't recommend using coconut oil if you get recurrent BV or thrush. So that's bacterial vaginosis. So if you are somebody who gets infections quite regularly, your coconut oil might be disrupting your pH. And so that's something to consider if that's an issue for you, is that maybe go into something like the fennel that's going to help that situation of pH and antifungal, antibacterial instead. Sea buckthorn oil. This is another one of my favorites. I use this one here, Plump. This is like a bright orange liquid. Both the fennel oil and the sea buckthorn oil and coconut oil you can take internally as well. So you can take them in your mouth. Your sea buckthorn oil is really good for mucosas. So healing dryness, healing inflammation. So if you are moving through perimenopause, if you're feeling dryness, if you're feeling itchy, or just like because you're dried out, those different things, then this is really good to use as like a massage, aftercare. We use this in suppositories to help build up that mucous membrane, strengthen it, reduce the inflammation. It's really, really high in omega-7s and antioxidants. So it's good for lots of things. Be also really good if you have, like, we're prone to like mouth ulcers. Used it in things like anal fissures, lots of things like that. Any mucosa, it's fine for. It is bright orange. I will say it again. It stains. So if you are using it, bed sheets, everything like that, you might want to pop like your towel down, or use a liner if you're popping it on in vaginally, or yeah, it will stain otherwise. Okay, so your body holds the map, but your energy is going to write your story. I've touched on your energy and your story a few times. Your energetic roots for your relationship with pleasure and receiving start with being really aware of the stories. So checking in with the culture that you've grown up with, your childhood impressions of what sex is about, what your parents have told you about it. And this could come into like religion, purity myths, like what you've been told at school, how other kids talk to you about it, how, like, what was your social circle like when you first started exploring, how did your partners treat you, your body, your desires, anything that's been said to you. All of these build into your story. So bringing awareness back into this is where we really start. Looking into that, it's not just in what's happened in this lifetime, but the witch wound is so related to your relationship with pleasure and desire, because I believe that, like, women have been punished, demonized, and hunted for knowing connection with their bodies and their pleasure and their desires for centuries. So what this relates to is that when a woman was connected with her body, if she knew her cycle, if she knew how to heal herself with nature, herbs, how to bring on her bleed with herbs, how to stop it, how to do anything like that, then she was demonized and hunted as a witch. There's a lot of background information from reasons why and everything like that, but the most important thing that has been carried down through generations or inherited energetically is that inbuilt fear that that connection with our bodies is not safe. So we carry that on as women, that it's not safe to be that connected with your body. You know how demonized it would be to be a woman who would associate her rhythms with the moon, which is that if we can lean into the moon cycles, 28-day rhythm, to see where we are in our cycle and map it against something solid, that was demonized. So there's a big energetic block in a lot of women that says, oh, I can't do that. Like, that's not for me. And that's okay. Like, but this is a part of the breaking the cycles and working through the energy that we are inheriting from our witch wound, which is telling us that as women, we are to be ashamed of our bodies, to be fearful of our bodies. And it also goes with pleasure. There's the witch wound was very tied to women dobbing in other women for being too sexy, too desirable. That woman there is a threat to me because she is been looking at my husband, all of these different things. That has made a woman feel that uncomfortability with feeling desirable, of feeling sexy, of being comfortable in their curves, all of these different things that have been told that we are not safe to feel. All of that needs to be acknowledged. And the way that I work with these types of things is moving through journeys to check in with where we have made contracts or promises to ourselves or others that we no longer need to hold ourselves to, and releasing some of those, burning old contracts. So this is where we tie in the shadow work, shame, releasing the old narratives, releasing old rejections, the traumas, birth stories, body hate that we have been carrying for a long time stays within us. We need to find a way to see it, hold it, release it. So I hold space for that. We need to learn how to speak what we need. Women, people pleasers. Yes, we have been taught to do everything for everybody else since children. Watching our mothers rush around to make sure everybody else's needs are met and never doing it for ourselves, the martyred mother. But we get to be heard. We get to honor our needs. We get to feel our own self-worth, and we get to hold boundaries. We're allowed to do these things. And I love to teach that. I use the nonviolent communication method. It's something that I've been teaching since my women's circle days and helping women establish boundaries using nonviolent communication, teaching that to our family members, building harmonious families with these methods. And coming back to the embodiment of the sacred feminine, being in tune with your body, being able to touch and listen and connect with your body, not for performance, but through devotion. So, like, what are you devoted to? Be devoted to your body, to be devoted to your pleasure. And that's not just in a sexual way, but your pleasure comes out in many different ways. It's your creativity, it's your ability to find joy and laughter and playfulness in your everyday. And all of that comes through embodying the sacred feminine. So obviously all of this can't be done in one consult, but that first step is going to open the gate. So this is the deeper work that I do in my work, like moving deeper, moving into my energetic work is where we get all of these sort of things opening up. So take this moment, just place your hands on your womb or your heart. You can put a hand on each. Just take a deep breath and breathe into the parts of you that have been silenced over the years. And just think, like, what is something that you would like to reclaim tonight? And if you'd like, just pop a word in the chat. Just feeling to see, like, what comes up. Whatever comes up is perfect. What do you want to reclaim? Pleasure, safety, your voice, your own personal power. Safety, so important. Underpins everything. Absolutely. So tonight we have explored 3 pillars. Yes, pleasure and putting yourself first. Yeah, nourishing yourself. Set your standards. We have explored the 3 pillars to having a connected libido and connected to pleasure. So we've talked about the physiology of our sex, that's balancing our hormones, nourishing our body and our nervous system, finding safety within our bodies. Our conscious body connection for our sex. So understanding and honoring our cycle and our different stages, our vaginal ecosystem, and showing devotion and listening to our body. And the energetics of our sex, releasing those old imprints and reclaiming our desires and the power of your inner wild woman. So to embody this sex magic, it really requires you to decide first. You have to make that decision yourself to honor yourself in devotion. That's that putting yourself first, setting your own standards. It requires you to connect to your body and listen, to take some time, some moments throughout your day to check in, to rewrite your shame stories and allow yourself to be seen, even if it's just by yourself, seen by you. And of course, you don't have to do this alone. So if you want help to reclaim your body and activate your pleasure, it just takes one step forward. So that's my initial consultation. And that's where we just crack it open and get started. So we do that over Zoom, 90-minute deep dive. We go through symptoms, your trauma, your history, your cycles. We refer you to any functional pathology if it's needed. And I give you personalized herbal, nutritional, and ritual plans to help give you your first steps and set you up with this is your path. Okay. And from there, we can move deeper and work out what your individualized path is because everybody's different. So having that first initial consultation where we gather all of the intel, gather all the information. And then from there, I give you that intimate, personalized, sacred care where I say, this is where I think we need to go from here. So the first step is the initial consultation, and that investment is $225. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat and I'll hang around for that. But what I will do is I will stop that.